All right, everyone. Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. My name is Molly Edison. Welcome to Lunch with Leaders by Junior Achievement. As I said, my name is Molly. I'm your host and technical support for our meeting today. We are so excited to have you all here, and we really look forward to introducing our featured guest, Ana Chaud, founder of Garden Bar. We would love for all of you to eat lunch during this call, so please feel free to grab some food and get ready to listen. Now, before we do begin, I would love to take a moment to go over some of the features of Zoom. So please make sure that your cameras are on. If possible, we would definitely love to see all of your faces. All of the guest microphones have been muted, and we do ask that you keep your microphone muted unless instructed. Please make sure that your computer speakers are up and that you use headphones if you need to. We do encourage that you use the chat box feature, so please feel free to type in any questions that you have or ask for any help or technical support. Please do note that anything you add in the chat box will only be visible to Junior Achievement staff. To start right now, if you could please go to the chat box and type in, let us know where you are tuning in from. Let us know a city. We'd love to hear where everyone is tuning in from. We also want to hear from you, so following the moderated discussion, we will have a question and answer portion. During the Q&A portion, please type in any questions you have to the chat feature in order to get your questions answered. If this meeting is lagging or your connection is unstable, we suggest that you close out any unnecessary programs on your computer to free up some bandwidth. After the Q&A portion, we will announce the winner of the raffle for the $25 Garden Bar gift card, so please stick around until the very end. I'm looking at the chat now and I see we have people from Crestwell, Oregon, from Portland, from Washougal, from Redmond. So that's awesome to see you guys all here. If you are just tuning in, this is Lunch with Leaders by Junior Achievement, today featuring Ana Chaud, founder of Garden Bar. As you may be familiar, Junior Achievement of Oregon and Southwest Washington works in partnerships with schools to inspire and prepare young people for their future economic success. In partnership with education and business communities, we are transforming the student experience by bringing relevancy, authenticity, and application into everyday learning to energize students around academics and their future possibilities. Through integrated learning models focused on work readiness, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy, we are empowering the next generation with knowledge, capacity, and motivation to build a better future for themselves and their community. We serve tens of thousands of kindergarten through 12th grade students every year. In JA BizTown, our popular 5th grade program, JA Finance Park, our flagship financial literacy program, and in-class programs, and much more. Thank you guys again so much for joining us today for Lunch with Leaders. I'm excited to introduce our moderator today, Mia Kane. Hi, Mia. She is a junior at Lincoln High School, a JA BizTown alumni, and is one of the top distance runners in the state of Oregon. Hey, Mia, again. Our guest speaker today and leader joining us is Ana Chaud. Hey, Ana.
Hi.
So now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mia.
Hi. So I'm Mia. Thank you guys all for coming. And Ana, maybe would you like to introduce yourself? Show us what you're eating for lunch. I have a smoothie, some muffins.
Okay. Well, I have a salad, you guys, that I want to show you. This is the beauty of Garden Bar. So my name is Ana Chaud, and I'm the founder, CEO of a company called Garden Bar that I started about 5 years ago. Most people know Garden Bar in Portland. If you don't know, if you're not from Portland, Garden Bar is a fast casual, not fast food. It's a fast casual chain of restaurants where we sell salads only. And I started this because I wanted to create an option for people to be able to eat healthy and be able to do that in a short period of time. So the company started in 2014, and last year in 2019, we were acquired by a very similar concept restaurant from Seattle, and we did a strategic partnership where they acquired us. So we created a one brand for the Northwest. So now Garden Bar and Evergreen are together, and they offer the same things that we did, and we're just trying to keep the mission alive. So that's a little bit about me. And you'll find out more as we go. So that's good.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Thank you. So you
Sure.
kind of shared about like when Garden Bar started and how it goes, but do you want to maybe give us like a basic job description, or like what would your like day-to-day work look like?
Okay, so when I was a garden bar, I basically had to run the company, right? So when you are running the company as a CEO, you are responsible for the performance of every department that you have in the company. So the way I try to explain to people the job of a CEO is I try to compare to an orchestra. If somebody plays an instrument, they probably understand, like the orchestra has different people who play different instruments, and they all have the music, and they all know what they need to play, but there has to be a conductor there that helps them come in and out, and so you create music, right? So that's the job of a CEO, is that you understand how each department of a company has to run and what they have to do, and our job is to make sure that everyone is doing their jobs in a way that they know what to do, that we provide them all the resources that they need. So my day-to-day was really very busy because you could be working on something financial related, and all of a sudden you're working with the employees, and I used to be the one, if they wanted to ask, someone did not have somebody in the store and needed someone to make a salad, I would go in behind the line and make salads, where I would help with the POS or whatever it was. So your day is not really consistent, but it's always busy and always very exciting, at least for me it was. So that's what I did when I was doing Garden Bar. Yeah.
That's awesome. It sounds like you really had a lot on your plate. Would you like to share with us something that you really love about your job?
When I was at Garden Bar,
Mm-hmm.
I loved, when I was at Garden Bar, what I did love is the fact that I never, I know this is interesting, that I never knew what I was going to encounter, that they always had something. And I started to learn how to enjoy the fact that I didn't know what was going to be. So my days were always very different. I would come in with a calendar of things that I thought I was going to have, and all of a sudden something would happen, and I would have to learn how to adjust. So what I enjoyed about Garden Bar is that I had to learn how to become flexible and not get attached to something. Like if I had a calendar and I had things that I were really trying to get done, and if I didn't have a chance to do it, I had to learn how to be at peace of, okay, things change, and I have to understand how to tackle whatever came out to me. So those were very important things, but I also learned that I had to have a plan of action as well. So it was an interesting way of learning how to adapt to things that happen, but also understanding that you have to create a plan and put a plan in action so you can grow the company. So I love the challenges of building something from the ground up, because we started with one store and then we ended up with 9. So there was a process to be able to build a company that I had to learn as I was going through it.
Very cool. Yeah. So, just going backwards a bit, like for a student like me, like listening to someone really successful speak, I just think about like what you wanted to do when you were in high school. Since, for me, like I have no idea what I want to do. So when you were in high school, did you have any idea that you were going to start a restaurant like Garden Bar?
No idea. I didn't even have an idea until I'll say 2 years before I started Garden Bar. So what you described me is exactly what most of us are in high school. I think most of us don't know what we want to do in high school, but we always think everybody else does, right? We always think, oh, they know what they're going to do. I'm the only one who doesn't. So I actually personally struggle with that a lot because I come from Brazil, and in Brazil, it's a very different culture, especially when I grew up. And in Brazil, I always joke, and there's like 4 professions. There's doctor, lawyer, engineer, and everything else that they don't mention that exists. And I wanted to be something else, and my parents were terrified. They're like, oh my God, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're not going to have a job. And I'm like, I don't want to be one of those 3 things. Mind you, my dad was an engineer, my mom was a lawyer, so they were professions that had a name, right? So I did not know what I wanted to do at all. I mean, I guess that isn't the question. But what I did do is I started, creating that path by, by trial and error. I started building my career by trial and error. I had a job, and then I saw what I liked in that job. And then when I went to the next job, I tried to get the things that I enjoyed about the first job. And and I sort of like tried to learn a little bit of where my skill set was actually becoming very strong, if that makes any sense to you. Does that?
Oh yeah, no, that makes a lot
Good,
of sense.
good. Okay.
That's good. So you kind of found out where your skill set was, but along that journey of like figuring that out about yourself, how many different jobs did you have? Because I assume you didn't just jump right into starting a restaurant.
No, okay, let me start by saying that not in a million years I thought I was gonna own a restaurant. Nor did I ever even wanted to do that. My goal when I started Garden Bar is I wanted to be in the health industry, because from an early age, I was a dancer, and I was very much into health and being healthy, and I was always very interested in nutrition. So Garden Bar came as an option for me to be able to help people be healthy, right? But throughout my career, I can honestly say that I changed jobs at least 8 or 9 times, but I also changed industries at least 5 times. And by industries, I mean, I started working electronics, and then I went to work in the financial services, and then I went to work in archaeology, and then I went to work. And what I learned was, even though there were different industries, there were things that I could translate from business piece into business management, and that's what I started to build. So I had a lot of different jobs, but what I noticed was what is in the one job that's similar to the other, even if I am working with absolutely different things. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It seemed like you were changing up a lot, but there was always that constant that kind of like you could grow through and just, yeah, no, that's great. So what was your very first job, and how did you get hired for that?
Wow, that's a good question. I like that. Okay, so my very first job was at a company called Sharp Electronics. I don't know if most people know. Sharp is a brand of electronics. They are a corporation. They're based in Japan. They had a subsidiary in Brazil. And I was hired as a full-time, what we call intern in the marketing department. Almost like call what marketing assistant is, in an apprentice. So I started that when my junior year in college, and then things started progressing to a way where they offered me a full-time position. So I was working at electronics at the time. So that was my very first job, corporate in marketing department, electronics. See how different from restaurants in Portland?
Right, yeah.
Very. Yes, exactly.
So do you think what you learned from that first job was like positive or negative? Since I know you did eventually switch fields actually a few times. It's like, do you think that first job was like a positive experience?
Oh my gosh, it was such a positive experience for me, because first of all, I was trying to learn how to, I was learning about business, and while in college, and mind you, I did not major in business. My major was communications, and so it was very different. But it was great for me to be exposed to what they were doing in a corporate level, understanding how the corporate departments, how they are structured, how to conduct meetings, and what are the different things we were doing. So that was extremely valuable to me. I picked up a ton of skills, in particular in technology. I started learning a lot about technology. So that was really good. But then when I finished college, I realized that I was lacking some business skills, because that was not what my major was. So that's when I decided I wanted to continue on and pursue a master's in business, so I could continue learning a little bit more about the business environment. So yes, it was definitely very positive for me.
That's great. So is there anything like in specific that made you change fields? I know you've changed fields lots of times, but like any of the times, is there anything specific that made you kind of jump over?
Well, I think it's that, it was mostly as I was trying to learn what made me enjoy my job. Every time I was in a different job, I was finding out a little bit more about what was that I enjoyed about that job versus not. So I was starting to build what my set of skills was. And so when I left, you gotta understand, so I left Sharp and I left Brazil and I moved to the United States when I was 21. So that was when I came to learn the language and then decided to apply for a master's. And so by default, I changed the entire country, so I had to change industries in that respect. But then when I graduated from my master's, I had an option in finance. So then I went and got a job at the financial industry, and I didn't like it very much. It wasn't what made me happy. So what I did, I decided that I wasn't going to change fields, but trying to stay in the business side. So that's what I did. And then so I pursued different industries until I found one that I really loved, which is more of the health space. And that's what I had been seeking for a while. So that's why it's more of understanding what you love to do, but also understanding what skills you can translate from one job to the other.
No, that's great. And yeah, that must have been a huge transition coming from Brazil to the United States at only 21. Super
Yeah.
young.
Yeah.
Is there something about your journey or like your pathway to your job that you think would surprise students?
Yeah, I think one of the things about my job, yes, and I'll tell you what it is that most people, when I'm sitting in this position, people think that I had a plan, right? That started when I was 2, and then now this plan evolved, and we all look for that one plan. And I think most people are surprised when I say that I had no plan. And the plan was understanding that I didn't have a plan. I think that's how the plan was. It was like, okay, I finally say that I did. But I think that most people are surprised about that I actually had to come to terms that the plan was a series of smaller plans. So I would start and finish one thing and then go to the next one and go to the next one and then put those things in order to come to Garden Bar, right? But I think people get really interested when I tell them that one of my jobs was in archaeology, because when you think archaeology, you think Indiana Jones, which I'm sure you don't even know who that is, but most people really do with Indiana Jones. But it is an actual industry and it's an actual profession, and people actually do archaeology. So it was something where it was a part of the world I had no idea. But when I tell people about archaeology and that I worked with archaeologists, everybody goes like, whoa, and I saw all the things that they find and they send to museums, and they have all these pieces that they find and they curate. So that was pretty fascinating. Yeah.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
You ended up there in the field of archaeology of all things. Yeah, and speaking of ending up places, how did you end up in Portland? And did you ever see yourself being here?
That's a big question. So I moved from Brazil to San Francisco, where I lived in California for a long, long time. And that's where I met my husband at the time, and we had a baby. And so when we had a baby and I was working in San Francisco, we decided wanted to be in a city that was a little more conducive to families. I mean, San Francisco is a beautiful place and I love it, but it wasn't really the place we wanted to raise the kids. And we had been coming to Portland a lot and we loved it here. We thought it was a great place to raise a family. So we moved to Portland. Literally, we picked up and said, let's just start over. And that was one of my starting over situations. And so in 2008, of all years, we decided to leave California, and we both left our positions and then moved up here. And that's how we ended up here. Isn't that fascinating? I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Awesome. So you've touched on like your schooling and your education, but what education, training, or certifications have you acquired like throughout your years?
Yeah, so I started out with a bachelor's degree, like most people do, and then I pursued a master's degree, which I got a master's in finance, and that's an MBA, which I got in California. And then since then, and then I had a little bit different certifications. Like when I was doing project management, I went back and got a project management, some certification in project management. But I've been since very interested in learning different things and learning different subjects and learning a lot. So depending on what is my what I'm working on, I usually go and try to seek out something. So as far as like degrees, I have the 2 degrees, and then I was pursuing a nutrition of all things. I was becoming a registered dietitian. I was pursuing that when I started Garden Bar. So I didn't become a fully registered dietitian, but I was taking nutritional classes, so I was able to learn a lot about nutrition, which is still a passion for me. And I still read a lot, so there are a lot of things that I'm always constantly learning, and I love that. And I feel like that is always what's keeping me moving forward and being able to innovate in whatever it is I'm doing is by learning from different people in particular. So that's great.
No, that's good. It's good to definitely benefit from the people around you, especially working high up in such a successful business. I'm sure you meet really cool people.
It's so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. What advice would you give your younger self?
My younger self. Yes. I always think about that because there's just so much that that comes up when we talk about advice and which one really is meaningful to us. And there's so many, and I am going to talk about 2 of them because those are the 2 that I think were really important to me when I was building a company. Okay, so we're talking Garden Bar and you're building a company, and one thing that we realize is that, or people don't realize as much, is that we hear a lot of no's. No is not uncommon in the business world, and we sometimes think the no is the end of the road. And I had a mentor early on in San Francisco when I was very afraid of the no's. And this mentor helped me see that the no was not the end. It was actually the start. Because every time I heard a no, it meant I had to change something in whatever I was doing to be able to get to the yes. So I always like, okay, if there is a no and they say no to me, it's because something that I'm doing is wrong or something is not working. So it had to bring me back to starting over, whatever that was. And then I had to really learn that all I needed was a yes. So, and it's one yes, right? So I can go through 99 no's. If I get one yes, it's what I need, right? So I learned that a lot, that no is not the end, it's actually the start of something. But another advice that really stuck with me, it was about failure, because we tend to think that if we start something and then that whatever we started does not happen or it doesn't work, we think we failed. And that's nothing farther from the truth. And I heard a quote once that stuck with me forever. And it said that failure is the time that it takes between the moment that you know something is not working and the moment that you stop doing that thing. So that is failure, when you know something is not working and then you continue doing it. But the minute that you do something and if it doesn't work out, you're like, hey, I'll move on, I'll do something else. That's not failure, that's learning, that's trial and error. And I had a lot of those along my career. In that, the 7 or 8 jobs will tell you that you start a job and then you don't. So that's those are the 2 big advices, is that never think a no is the end, because it's not, and never think that failure, like because you start something doesn't work, it's not failure. That is not the right word. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that is out there. So that's it.
No, for sure. That definitely makes sense. Like, sounds like you really persevered through a lot and a lot of different challenges.
I did.
Yes. If you could go back to when you were 21 and just moved to the United States, would you have picked the same career path and like taken the same journey to get here?
Okay, this is a deep question, Mia. I love that. So good, so good. Today, and by the way, that was on my list of questions, which is great. I love it. So I got to think of that one. But I'll say this. If you ask me today, I'm able to see the journey and see that I am exactly where I wanted to be. However, when I was 21, I thought, like most of us do, that I didn't have a plan and I have to have this plan, and why does everybody else have a plan and I don't have a plan and I should do that plan and I'm not that. So I struggled with that. So that is one of the things where if I could give myself when if I were younger, an advice would be to know that I don't have to have that plan, that if I continue doing things and persevering, that I will get to the place that is the right place for me. So to answer your question, I would not have changed anything, because everything I did contributed to what I am today. And had I not done any of those things, I wouldn't be here. And I think where I am today is a place that I really, really love. So I wouldn't have changed it. No.
No, that's really good to hear. And awesome to know that you don't have to know what you want to do right away. And there's still tons of successful people who didn't know what they wanted to do in high school. Are there any, is there any additional information that you think it's important for students to know if they're interested in learning more about the type of work that you do?
Yes. So, well, I mean, in terms of interesting, I think that what I think we covered a lot in this conversation is about, you guys in particular are in a very interesting time, right? Where nobody knows what's going to be like. We're changing the way we do business, and then there's a little bit of a uncertainty in the air. But this is what I remember. I heard a story once, not a story, but I heard a talk once where this man said to me, or to us in the group, and he said, look, when you go from driving from San Francisco to Los Angeles at nighttime, you cannot see the entire road that you're driving. But with your headlights on, you're able to see portions of that road. And once you get to that end of that portion, you see the next segment, right? So what I love to tell the people I work with is that we don't need to know we need to know where we're going. I think that's the important thing. Sometimes we think that not knowing where we're going is going to take us somewhere. I think the important thing is we need to know where we're going, but we don't need to know exactly how we're going to get there. And then once we take that first step, the next steps will come and will unfold in front of us. So I think that's one thing I love to do with the people that I'm working with right now, because right now I help business owners that are either starting a business or want to grow their business. I help them come up with the steps that they need to reach their goals. So once we decide where the goals are, then we put the steps in order. But we don't design the entire road. We just do the first steps, and then once we reach those, then we go to the next one. And I think that's true for everybody, including you guys in school. If you know what you want to do, then you can start developing the path slowly until you get to that. But take some time to know what you love and what makes you excited, and then you figure out what the possibilities are. Does that make sense? I think you're muted.
All right. Mia, we'll go ahead and get you unmuted, but it is time for us to switch over to the question and answer portion of the of the call right now. So if you guys are watching, want to go ahead and open up that chat and type in any questions that you would like Ana to address. We'll be asking her those questions and getting the answers. So open up your chat, type in a couple questions. Ana, as we're getting more questions in, I do already have a question from Inga, who I know is tuning in from Raleigh Hills. Her question was, what is the hardest thing that you have had to deal with, and how did you overcome that obstacle?
Well, there's not the hardest thing. There's hardest things, you know, because there's always going to be a lot of, we're always going to have some hurdles whenever we're going to pursue something, and that's a given. There is never going to be not. So to pursue that, you just need to understand that that's part of the journey. That's number one. You can't think of that as being, oh my gosh, why this is happening to me? You're going to think about like, okay, well, that's part of the journey, and part of my job is problem solve, right? So as an entrepreneur, one of my skill sets is to problem solve. Otherwise, I should not be an entrepreneur. As a business manager, that's the thing. So having problems is actually, it gives me what I need to be good at. So in terms of overcoming obstacles is by really understanding that it's just one more step on your road that you have to think about, know what you need to do to fix it, and then create the path to do it. So remember, everything we do, we have a few steps. One step is to figure out what's the outcome that we want. Then we figure it out where we are, and then what's the gap and what we need to get there. So that is how I approach all my hurdles. But I don't know if the question was what hurdles I've gone through. Was it, Molly? I don't know. There's a ton.
What were your biggest challenges? Yep.
Well, I can't say that my biggest challenge was not when I landed in our country. I landed here with 2 suitcases, not speaking a word of English, and having to figure out how to haul a cab from a place that you couldn't haul a cab. So I was there for 7 hours until someone took pity on me and realized I was looking for a cab. And I'm thinking, how do I go? Nobody knows because it was that small town. And I came from a big city where you just go like that for cab. So there was a big wake-up call for me was when I was like, okay, well, I made this decision and now here I am. I need to learn the language. I need to learn how to navigate. I need to learn how to go to school. So I had to break down that big challenge into small chunks. And my first chunk was, where do I get the bed of this dorm that doesn't have sheets? And I had to figure that out. And then I'm like, okay, next. So I learned how to be able to adapt to a completely different environment. And every time that I go through a big hurdle, I remember my first 10 weeks in the US and how I had to take that big undertaking and separate it in small chunks of success. And that's what I did. So that's what I've done with that. And then with Garden Bar, we've had a lot of hurdles. And the hurdles are inherent of the restaurant industry. And it's a very difficult industry to work in. It's a very tight numbers, not tight margins. So I tackled it the same way. I had to figure out where do I need to go and what are the micro steps of success that I have to achieve to be able to get to the bigger. You guys see the pattern? There's plan, micro plan, micro plan. There's a lot of these in my life. So I hope that helps. Yeah,
Ana, thank you so much. We've got another question from Emily. Emily was wondering, what were your favorite subjects in school? What were your least favorite subjects? And what classes did you take in school that you think most helped you with your career?
Great question. Yeah, so, well, okay, it goes without saying, because I'm a nutrition enthusiast, biology was by far my favorite class. Physiology, to this day, I can tell you everything that happens in our human body. So I loved anything science related, chemistry, absolutely love, very much into that. And I'm a numbers person, so I loved math. I have to tell you that, Emily, I'm not much of a fan of humanities. Like it seems they have to write a lot, and although I love to read and I love to write, but I am not so much somebody that enjoys that particular, writing about subject. It's not my thing, but I do love everything that's science and math related. Definitely, my math classes were statistics. I'd say statistics probably one of the most helpful classes I've ever had. And I still carry it with me. And I'll tell you what, I take Statistics 101 every so many years just to refresh my brain. I use it every day of my life. I love it. And economics, obviously, anything that is economics related, I think very, very important, and it helps you on day to day. So, yep, that was it.
Awesome, Ana, thank you. We had a question come in from Angelise, who's watching from Portland also. She was wondering, what are the primary differences between how business is run in Brazil versus in the United States, based off your observations?
Whoa, very good question. Well, let me start by saying that I never personally ran a business in Brazil, but my parents did, and I saw them going through it. I can say with no doubt that we just have a lot of more resources in the U.S. and a lot more, resources, which makes a big difference. But we have a little bit more organization around business. The business is run similarly. We just have different ways of communicating with team members, or the cultural piece of the company is a little different. And in Brazil, we have less resources financially as well, so it's a little harder to be able to invest in companies as we are here in the United States. But overall, business management is business management, and once you learn how to manage the business from a financial standpoint and a staff standpoint and in operations, it's very similar. It's not that hard in that respect. It's only hard on how do you have access to some resources outside the company, and from a government level, and also from a private investment level.
Wow, yeah, thank you, Ana. We have another question from Barbara, also tuning in from Vancouver, Washington. So Barb said, "We love Garden Bar, but what is next for you?"
I know. Okay, so I started a company called 360 Advisory, and basically what I'm doing is I'm going back to what I did before Garden Bar. So most people don't know, but before Garden Bar, I was a business consultant in San Francisco, and I did business consulting for 12 years, and I loved working with small business owners that wanting to figure out how to run their businesses better. That's really a lot of my business management experience came from helping them. So when I started Garden Bar, I was able to put into practice all the things I had learned from working with different business managers and business owners. So now I decided that I'm going to help people who are starting their own business, people who are in concept stage. I want to focus in early stage. So people that, let's say you have an idea and you just don't know how to execute that idea. Is that idea feasible? Is that idea, can we even make it happen? So I'm putting together some programs to help people find out what's the best way to implement this plan. So if you have an idea for a business, can we even make it happen? How do we fund it? And I'm also working with some business owners if they want to grow their business, or if they want to get better operations, then we help them implement better processes and make the staff happy, and so just doing a lot of work with business owners right now. So I love doing that. I really, really do. It's a fun thing for me to do. So
awesome, Ana. Yeah, that sounds like you're doing a lot. We have a question from a student coming in. Their name on the student call is Golden Wolf. They're asking what advice you would give to a young person thinking about starting their own business someday.
Oh, okay. So first thing, definitely take that idea or whatever idea you have and try to develop it and do what we call the business canvas or business model. Even you can do it on your own, you can join a group. There's a ton of groups. You guys I know have programs like that that give you at least the idea of put your idea into paper and then finding out that that's really what you like to do. And then if once you put that on paper and you realize, okay, this is what I want, I have a market, I know this is gonna be good, whatever, then you put in place the action plan to implement that idea and get your business started. Now, the one thing I am gonna say, my advice is, it doesn't mean it's going to be successful. It's okay. Most entrepreneurs fail 10 times before they get a really good, successful business, right? That is a criteria. So never think that because you have an idea and you implement it and you start a business, that it is a secret to success. One thing I'm always going to say to everybody that starts a business, the only certainty that you have in any circumstance is the lesson. That's it. It's a lesson. It's going to be a good lesson, a bad lesson, or whatever it is. That's the only certainty. You never know it's going to be successful, but you also never know it's not going to be successful. But you always know that you are going to learn from it, one way or the other. That's the only certainty you have. That and taxes and death or whatever the other ones, right? Then we have like the certainties. Lesson is the one as well. Just saying. Okay.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you for participating. This has been Lunch with Leaders by Junior Achievement, our virtual career speaker series. Next week, we'll be joined by Travis Boersma, who's the CEO and co-founder of Dutch Bros Coffee. I personally am really excited for that one. So you can please go ahead, visit our website and find out more information about that. You can go to jaorswwa.org. or search Junior Achievement of Oregon and Southwest Washington. I again want to say a huge thank you to our special guest, Ana Chaud. Thank you, Ana, for joining us today. We really appreciate you sharing your story and advice with our students. Really quickly, if we could please all give Ana a round of applause, and Mia, our moderator, as well. So let's give a round of applause just like this, everyone. Thank you so much, Ana and Mia. Really appreciate you being here today. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your day, everybody.
So much. Thank you.